Hey guys, just gonna follow up with this Hanger 9 Alpha I've been working on. I was telling some guys about the BECs that I use because I switch them over. I switch these old Nitro planes over to Nitro. So there's your standard old switch harness. This is the one that's in this plane. It'll take anywhere from a 2 to a 6S LiPo. I just use a 2S LiPo. Puts out 3 amps and a maximum of 5 amps. If you really put a load on it, you can switch this blue thing from those 2 prongs over to the other 2 prongs, and it goes from focus 5 volts to 6 volts. And I put it on the 6 volts because the servos are a little snappier and they're all made to handle that much. But this brings down the 8.5 volts of the LiPo to the 6 volts that the system can handle on your typical switch harness. And then the other end, you've got to put like a JST on instead of the Futaba connector. And the charge harness you do not use. And I recommend that you pull the LiPo out of the aircraft and charge it. Mine is sitting right there behind the fuel tank, and the balance port is going just outside of the model, and that way I can plug it into my battery checker and test out to, see how many flights I put in on it. I just recharged it. It's at 99%, but it keeps me from having to pull the wing off to check the battery. And when I'm ready to pull the battery out, I just stick it back through that rectangular hole and then unplug the JST, which is right there, and then just pull the battery out. It's just kind of wedged in there. There's the BEC and the modded switch harness. And another thing I did on this model is it's made to train people to fly, and so I may let other people bind their transmitters to it. So on the it's actually the bind port, one end of the switch harness. Well, on the bind port, I put a Y harness. And on one of the Ys, the BEC plugs in to power the receiver. Because this is only a 4-channel receiver, so I didn't have room to have an added feature. I had to use all 4 ports. So the other end of the Y harness simply goes to the outside of the model. And from there, if somebody else wants to use it, my buddy Mike wants to use it, he can just plug this into the aileron extension wire, or I'm sorry, into this other side of the Y harness with the wing on, because it's rubber bands and who wants to take all that crap off. And he can rebind it to his plane, and he'll already have it in model memory at some point. So this is the same motor that I talked about taking the baffle out of. I talked with a friend of mine, Colton Clark, who is a prolific RC guy. He said taking the baffle out hurts the mid-range, and to a 3D guy like himself, that really matters, the mid-range. For me, I want to go fast turn left, and I don't want the motor choked down at all. And this thing, it really screams with the baffle out, tuned in just fine. Love it. It pulls this plane almost straight up. I gotta get a drink here, hang on. And so we'll be training people to fly on this. Also, we like to get as many people to fly it as we can, and I put their names in a book. I did that with the Sig Rascal. So the covering here was just coming off because it's ultra coat, and ultra coat sucks. And I don't care what anybody says. I like it better. Well, you're dumb. But anyway, so I put monocoat here, silver, and it's supposed to be like, all the paint chipped off right there. And I was just goofing around. I've even put little rivet lines in there, rivet details. But that sealed that wood back up, and I put CA around all the little places that were loose. Right here it was coming loose. I put Mylar tape around it. We're not trying to win the pretty plane contest here or nothing. And the exhaust was kind of shooting up, and it was going right on the rubber bands, and that was a nasty mess. So I turned it downwards. I put this thing on there. We'll see how it does. It's probably gonna be sitting there farting like a whoopee cushion. But on the old Alpha 40, the tail was kind of wonky. I tightened the screws and I still felt like So I've got an epoxy gun and I ran a bead of epoxy everywhere this thing connects. First I cleaned it with lacquer thinner and paper towels and Q-tips, and then I put that bead of epoxy in there, and that'll help that. As before, I've got rubber plugs on it because I run all the fuel. I drain the fuel tank. I run all the fuel out of the cylinder. I put 10, 12 drops of Marvel mystery oil in it. I'll turn it over, get the bearings loaded with oil, and then I cap it. And then that protects those bearings. I don't have to I can let it sit for literally a year and come back and it'll still turn over just as smooth as it can be, because it's not, you know, sitting there rusting up and all that. So anyway, this thing's gonna get a lot of time on it with my grandkids and everything else. If anybody's got any questions about the lipo mods, I think I've got a blog on RC Groups about it. Screen name Pecan Patch, and just enjoying the Glow Nation thing, man. You guys have a good day. See you.